let's talk a little bit about Kamala Harris's performance on Fox News with her interview with Bret Baier. Okay, so just like with the Joe Biden and Donald Trump debate, I really tried to watch this with as open a mind as I could have, knowing what I know about Kamala, seeing all of the videos of Kamala and word salad and her Dr. Seuss way of speaking her policies of run, spot, run. Or I'll just take it from Trump, or I'll just cut and paste it from Joe Biden's website. I mean, I am the candidate of change after all, I should be using Joe Biden's policies to prove to everyone that I am my own person. And yes, I am a candidate of change. Are you kidding me? Will you Kamala? I don't know, whatever. Will you Kamala supporters please just go on her website? She asks you to go on there and look at the policies and notice that they are not different than what Joe Biden had written down. And are you better off now than you were 4 or 5 years ago? I mean, maybe you are. Maybe you're in the upper middle class and nothing has bothered you. Maybe you were fine with Trump and you're doing fine with Biden. But most of us are not. Most of us have had our buying power stripped from us, are dealing with inflation, groceries that are 40% up. I have to make the decision whether or not it's time to feed the cats or myself. Yeah. Or the dog. Dog food is expensive too now, if you want to get the good stuff. Oh, and cat litter too. So oh my goodness, if you have babies, I cannot imagine how difficult this is. I'm taking care of mine. my cats and my dog. So Kamala, I'm open-minded. I want to give her a shot. Plus, I was a little bit suspicious whether or not she's really as dumb, airheaded, idiotic, simplistic, communist as she seems, right? I mean, who is she? Who is this woman? I'm hearing more and more from Harmy Dillon about what her actual career was like as a prosecutor. It's not impressive. Most of her job was like her coming in for, I don't know, a couple hours a week, just showing up. She got paid to show up, $100,000 job to just show up a couple of times a week. And that went on for years. We all know how she got that position, right? Hey, Kamala voters. Kamala voters. Do you know how she got to be the prosecutor? No, actually, legs up. Do you know what her legs up strategy was? That. Legs up. Or maybe on her knees with Willie Brown, her mentor, who was 30 years older than her and married. That was kind of like one of those marriages where they stay married even though they don't live together and they've been separated forever. So, Willie Brown, I can't say was cheating on his wife, though kind of, yeah, technically in the sense he was, with Kamala Harris, who was so young. Most people asked if she was his daughter, which if you watch how he was with her and other young girls, it would be pretty obvious that Kamala was no daughter of Willie Brown's. Kamala serviced Willie Brown for years, and it paid off. Look what she got to be. She is the Attorney General. Look how high up a position she ended up in. Pretty darn high for somebody that can barely speak in public. She can speak if you give her something to say. She's an empty suit. This is how I described her on Twitter. I said, Kamala is a monster dressed in an empty suit pretending to be a presidential candidate. She is a lot more dangerous than she seems. Why? Not because of what's going on in her own little commie head, but because she will do what her commie masters tell her to do. And she's damn good at it. She climbed the ladder all the way up to vice presidential candidate. And now possibly the president. Can't think of any other talent that she has. Can you? Maybe memorization. She did pass the bar, so there's that. She can't be a complete idiot, right? Unless she had somebody come in and take the bar for her, because I do know that does happen for certain privileged people with certain privileges. But she doesn't have any privilege, right? She grew up in a middle class home. That wasn't upper middle class until she went to Canada and spent her formidable teenage years in an affluent neighborhood that's right there in the heart of Montreal. Growing up in a nice place. So that whole grew up in a middle class thing, check into later on when she was about 14 or 12, and you'll see a bit of a change there. Also, where's her dad? Her dad is a Marxist professor, and I would love to hear from her father about her upbringing. I know that her dad was mad at her last time the election went around. Her dad was mad at her in 2020 because she made the correlation that she was pro legalizing weed because of her Jamaican roots, and that upset her father. He's like, that's not. It's interesting because Candace Owens thinks that Kamala's heritage actually goes more Irish than African American, like there are Irish roots that were within the Jamaican family. I don't know, but I also know that there's a picture of her in her book that's supposedly her and her grandmother, but her grandmother died 4 years before she was born, so a lot of people are saying that that's actually the help that she took a picture with and said that that was her grandmother Beryl. Gosh, I don't know, guys, but these controversies just never end. They never end with these people. And I think it's because they are just so non-transparent. So the conspiracy theories are allowed to spin out of control. And that's what happens when they don't give you answers, or they don't give you satisfying answers. You just end up digging and finding these crazy rabbit holes, and you jump down them. And sometimes they are red herring rabbit holes. They have you jump down them to distract you on purpose. Hi, Pizzagate. Remember Pizzagate? Yeah. Or Q, all of that stuff, you know, like Q started off with let's protect children. Children are being trafficked. Children are being abused by the elites, by the people in power. Children are disappearing, all of that stuff. And it was true. They infiltrated Q with crazy time travel stuff, with John F. Kennedy Jr. is going to come back, and that they were operating like child dungeons underneath the pizza place. This is what happens when you have a movement that gets tainted by the feds or just crazies. Like, so the crazies take over. But I'm pretty sure that these little seeds were planted by the feds. And now we know why. It's because, yes, they are trafficking children. Children are disappearing. Children are being abused. And we are one of the biggest, if not biggest, countries for human trafficking importing. Think about that. It's pretty bad. And I wish that Brett Baird talked to her a little bit about that, about the human trafficking. Hey, where are those kids? Hey, also, can you tell us what happened to the thousands of people that are still missing from Lahaina? How about all the children that were trapped and couldn't leave their houses? And the parents who were trapped and couldn't get to their children. What happened to them? Don't know. Okay. What about all those people dying in East Palestine of sicknesses? Can we help them? No? Okay. How about those people in North Carolina? How about Asheville? I can't even talk about, the devastation I've seen is just, I can't even. You know, we had Irene come here, I don't know what, a decade ago. It was pretty bad, but it was not this bad. My grandfather, he lost everything. He lost his house in Bethel. It was a beautiful house. He lived there for, I don't know, 60 years. Completely flooded. He had to deal with black mold, and he had to move out of that beautiful house, and it's very sad. Very sad indeed. And he only lived for a few more years after that. It's kind of what happens when you lose everything that you ever had that meant anything to you. Basically everything that he and my grandmother had built together. And my grandmother died a long time ago, so he never remarried. He always remained loving my grandmother. His heart always belonged to her. So he lost a lot of stuff that reminded him of her too. I think it just kind of killed his spirit. I know we were talking about Kamala, and here I am talking about like my own family being affected by a hurricane or flood tropical storm. And this is not, I don't want to Joe Biden you guys. And I almost lost my house and my car because of a fire. No, I'm not doing that. I was just it's something I hadn't thought about in a long time, because my grandfather died like 10 years ago, and it's painful to think about the last few years of his life. And I wish that I had been a better granddaughter, that I'd been there more. He was always so not intimidating, because he never meant to be intimidating, but he was an amazing man. He was blind, he was a lawyer, he is the smartest man that I've ever met. He's accomplished, everybody loved him. He gave money to charity, and he worked at the Rotary pulling the bingo things. My grandfather was beloved, and I never felt like I lived up to that part of the family. Here I am, I'm just a artsy fartsy, customer service and writing and playing music, though he always encouraged me playing music. He didn't really like my style, but he always encouraged me playing music. It's tough, don't be like me. Don't make it so the last couple of years of your loved one's life you're not there, because just because they have been there before doesn't mean that they'll keep being there. One day you'll lose them. So visit your grandfather, your grandmother, your mom, your dad, whoever it is that needs a little love. Go and visit them, or maybe send them a card. Just let them know you're thinking about them. It's kind of important that we do that, especially in times like this.